Hello, welcome back to our Perspective podcast. Guys, these episodes have been incredible. And today is also one that is just so rich. I feel like, gosh, I could sit here and talk to him forever. It's so great to have this like little series, this mother-son series. But today we dive into high school Thomas and just kind of like what makes you kind of unshakable and like sticking to who God has called you to be. Thomas shares some really great stories, some really great wisdom. You don't want to miss it. Hey there, welcome back to our Perspective. This is episode 3 with you. This has been such, like, we're doing kind of this mother-son series, and it has been so rich. Like, I feel like our conversations have been so good.
They've been so much fun. I was kind of nervous hopping on the podcast,
You
but
were?
now it's been a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'm getting relaxed.
Yeah, now you're like
So
getting
it's been good.
comfortable. I love it. Okay, so a couple, like we were talking about it, and I was like, I was actually curious. I'm like, what's your favorite Bible verse? And then you kind of share it with me, what you're going to share on the
Yeah.
right now, which leads so awesome into the conversation that we're going to have today. So,
Yeah,
what's your favorite Bible
absolutely.
verse?
I know I have so many that I can lean on. I mean, Proverbs 3:5 through 6 has been one that's just for our entire household.
Yep.
I've leaned on, and but when you asked me that question, this was the verse that I immediately went to, and I'll tell y'all why in just a second. But like you said, it's such a great segue when we're going to talk about today. So, it's in James. It's James 1:2 through 4, and I'm going to read it real quick for you guys. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And so the reason why this verse is so important is because this is a verse that you always made me write on repeat whenever I got in trouble. So, some people would sit in timeout, some people got a spanking, and I had those sometimes, or like my Xbox got taken away. But a lot of times our punishment was sitting down at the
Yep.
kitchen table and writing down Bible verses. And you would pick the Bible verse for one. And this was the one that you seem to always pick. And this is the one that, like, whenever I'm going through anything,
Yep.
or you just kind of felt, and you prayed for me, this is the one that you tend to always send to me. And it's really been one that throughout my entire life I've kind of leaned on. And like I said, I think it's a great segue into talking about my experience at Jesuit and
Yeah.
my high school experience, and that experience for you and for me. So let's jump right on in.
Let's jump in because I did want to talk about your high school experience. My high school experience, even though like I feel like there is a boy, school, it's Jesuit, and the academy is the all-girls school. I went to the academy, and he went to Jesuit many years later. But I do feel like my experience in high school is very different. Like I feel like the world is very different than
Yeah.
in the 90s. The 90s were the best. But we're very different. So you had like different challenges in high
Yeah.
school. It was you have social media. I remember when you were asking me to get Snapchat and I'm like, no. And you're like, Mom, like nobody communicates.
Yeah, I asked you for Snapchat because I was in my chemistry class my sophomore year, and we were on a group project, and that was the group chat they were making. They're making the group chat in Snapchat. And I'm like, Mom, it's not even because I want to snap anybody.
Yeah.
It's because I need to like text my group. They
Right.
don't even ask for numbers anymore. It
Right.
was, what's your Snapchat? We're making a group for this project. So
And I mean, there's just so many different things that you've had to experience or, just challenges that you had to experience different than what I experienced. But, and, like we talked about this in a couple episodes ago, just kind of, some of the fears that I had.
yeah,
You were, just kind of a smaller kid going into high school. Yeah, it was just like really scary for me. But I didn't feel like it was scary for you. Like, I mean, maybe it was, but, like, I know that you really wanted to go there.
Yeah.
But, like, kinda talk me through, I mean, some of the challenges that you felt. I mean,
Yeah.
and really in society today where, like, social media comparison, trying to fit in, like, this is the season where kids, like, try so hard to fit in
Right.
to, like, I wanna find my group, I wanna find my friends, I wanna be cool, whatever that looked like.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. And I think this is great, especially I know there's so many, Aunt Grace does such a great job talking to the high schoolers because she's in that season right now, and so getting to kind of talk to them from, being in that season and kind of looking back and now processing what that season looked like for me.
Mhm.
It was really hard to kind of pretend to be someone I was not at a school where so many people were just more fortunate financially than I was.
Yeah.
It's hard to fake having money.
Yeah.
And so many people, it was like how many friends you had was based on your parents' status.
Yeah.
And a lot of them went to school together. They went to private school since they were in kindergarten.
Mhm.
They go to the same Catholic church together.
Sure.
And so all these groups were kind of already formed when I came in, and a lot of them were very wealthy, came from wealthy backgrounds, and so I didn't have any of that.
Mhm.
And there was no way I was gonna be able to fake that without making an absolute fool of myself. And so I was just gonna be who I was, and if people wanted to be my friend, great. If
Sure.
not, no big deal. But I think I just went in the Jesuit and just the whole situation of, getting in, and what an incredible opportunity that was. And I think that's something you've always instilled in me, of just taking advantage of the opportunities. I knew that, my goal here wasn't necessarily to make a bunch of friends. My goal
Mhm.
here was to take advantage of those opportunities. And so that's what I focused on. And that's what I made, my priority, was seeking out opportunities that fit me, that I enjoyed, that I was passionate about, whether it was clubs and organizations, classes. We had a little bit of freedom with classes that we got to pick,
Mhm.
and diving into those and taking
Yeah.
advantage of those opportunities. And so that's really kind of what I did in high school. And we talked about this in our first episode, was my core friend group was at church, and
Yeah.
being in church and going to Wednesday night services at United. Those were the things that helped me build those relationships and those friendships
Mhm.
outside of school. And so I had that in just other places. And so I definitely had some great friends at Jesuit and built some great relationships there, but it definitely wasn't, I wouldn't say, was the biggest thing for me there. It was so much more maybe the relationships with my teachers, and the things that I was a part of there that made that experience so impactful.
And I remember, like, you started school and you said "I wanna play football."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Why?"
And I was a short, kind of chubby white kid who was going to an all boys school that recruits. Um, That's and so, I was over there like summer camp playing with a kid. I'm like all of 5'4", 5'5", probably running a 5'5" 40, going against a kid who's like 6'3", looks like he should be in college. I'm like, this is the kid that I'm going into high school with. We're the same
They
age.
were
And so I was like, I have no shot at this. But I did it anyway.
You
With
did all
all of
summer.
summer. And it was like a couple weeks before, and this looks so bad when I look back at it, but it was a couple weeks before the first game. And my dad had just bought me new cleats. Like I asked him, I had one of these new really nice cleats, $120 cleats, and it was like a week later I quit football. He still talks about it to this day, and I don't blame him. That was my bad. But I remember I had just gotten in trouble for wearing the run collar socks.
Right,
Wrong
wrong
collar
color
socks. Thank you.
color socks.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Yeah,
talk
go for
there.
it.
Wrong color socks. And so I got in trouble, so I had to run laps after practice. And I remember already that was the day that I was going to approach my coach about maybe doing something different and joining maybe the management team, or I was like, I kind of wanted to be a coach at that time. So I was like,
Yeah.
what other opportunities around football could I be a part of? So I remember coming to his office and kind of talking to him, and he's like, "You're already quitting?" And I was like, I want to talk to you about this before. He's like, I made you run one extra time and you're already quitting. I was like, no, I was like, this is just what I want to do. Like, I know there's not a future for me in football, and, I want to do something else that I just
Mhm.
felt more, I was going to leave more of an impact.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, let me get you in contact with the team trainer, and they have some students that help out with management. And so I dove into that. I remember going to the first game, and I was helping pulling out the water. I was a water boy, honestly. Like, no, I remember some of my friends making fun of me for just being a water boy. I was like, I was taping ankles too. I remember fixing a helmet in the state semis for our best player, and he was only out 2 plays. I remember doing that. But
Yeah.
it's so funny. We talked about how I kind of fall into the background and like
Sure.
working in the behind the scenes, and it was just the perfect role for me. I ended up doing some stuff with basketball, helping with film, and built so many great relationships with the players. I got to travel with them. I was at practice with them, And, I was a part of the team, but I just didn't have the helmet and pads on.
Mhm.
So,
And I think, like, also too, like, you craved being part of a team.
yeah,
Like, you craved being part of a team. And then it was
Coach Kaiser.
Coach Kaiser.
Mhm.
He was so incredible, and I think he noticed that
Yeah,
in you and then elevated you into that position.
absolutely.
But you were at every game. Like,
Yeah.
I remember freshman year, like, oh my gosh, you'd sometimes get home, like, at midnight
Mhm.
from the games, and I'd have to go pick you up.
Yeah.
You went to every football game, and then I remember you're like, "I'm gonna do this basketball too."
Yeah.
And then I remember the basketball game, and I just remember being a mom in the stands with, like, all of these, like, Jesuit moms and, like, their
Mhm.
kids were playing football, and I would and of course, and I knew a lot of the moms too just 'cause there are a lot of them, they're Tampa, and I grew up in Tampa, so I
Yeah.
know a lot of 'em. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like, what number is your son?" I'm like, "Oh, no, he's the net he's"
No, yeah, he's the one all the way at the very top of the bleachers on the
Yeah,
empty side over there at
yeah.
Tiger Palace taking a video
Yep.
of a game.
Mhm.
That was me, yeah, no, I mean.
But you were so faithful.
Mhm.
You were so faithful. In basketball, remember, like, you would get home from the games or the games would end, and I went to all the games. Like,
You
I
had
was
a lot of
like,
them.
I am if this is your sport, like, if this is what you're gonna do, like, I'm gonna support you just
Yeah.
like anybody
There's
else.
parents that don't like going to their kids' games when they're playing, so I couldn't imagine how bored you must have been sitting there watching me move a camera back and forth.
I was
The
so
games
proud of you.
were pretty cool though, so
No, first of all, basketball, I loved watching
that
basketball
was a lot of
games,
fun. It was fun.
and I loved reminiscing, like, when I was there too. It's like, as a cheerleader, so that was fun. But football, like, I was there, like, watching you, but I remember basketball games would end, and I would just, like, walk out to and sit down in the car and wait for you, and wait for you,
Yeah,
and
I had
wait
to
for
load up the
you.
huddle so they could watch their film the next
And
day.
wait for
Yep.
you, and you would be I mean, like, no car in the parking lot,
Yeah.
and you would be the last person out.
Mhm.
And you were so faithful, and I remember you would do that for the football team too,
Yeah.
and I remember remember he was a kicker or something, and the dad came up to my car,
Yeah.
and
The long snapper.
he was
Yeah,
okay, I
that's
remember,
right,
but he
yeah.
was, like,
Mhm.
wanted to do professional, like, he was really good.
No, he plays for Florida State now, right?
Yeah. So he knocked on my window and asked me if, "Are you Thomas's mom?" And I said, "Yes." And he's like, "I just wanna thank you because your son is so faithful and, like, doing all of the videos so our kids could watch it the next day."
Yeah.
And it's so funny because sometimes those are, like, such God winks for me because 'cause I'm like, "Is anyone even noticing my son?" Because I feel like everyone just left, the game's done, like, the stars are gone, I'm the last one in the parking lot. I think as parents sometimes, like, does anybody even notice what my son is doing?
Yeah.
So that was such a sweet God wink, but it's such a weird thing for me. But you never cared. You were just so faithful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, why was taking so long? Mom, I have to upload the film. I have to get it ready. Like, this is my job. You took it
Yeah.
so seriously.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it was a incredible experience, and I think, it really wasn't until my senior year that I realized what
Mhm.
impact I was making,
Mhm.
and just, how involved I was in the senior activities and
Yeah,
those
oh, yeah, you were
festivities
like
and all those
senior night.
things.
You were part of
I was
senior
walking
night.
in senior night.
Yeah.
I was at all the award ceremonies, and so it was really cool to, I will say, like, the coaches and the staff that I worked under were all super appreciative of me,
Mhm.
and always made me feel seen.
Mhm.
I had such great relationships with so many of the coaches on the football team.
And the basketball coach,
Yes, Coach Goldman, he was
he
awesome,
was
and,
amazing. He treated you like you were literally part of that team.
absolutely, absolutely. I never and really the whole team, all 4
No, yeah,
years, I
no, they
mean,
were so
it's a smaller
incredible.
group, so it's a little easier
Yeah,
to get to know them,
yeah.
but even the ones that I remember, like the seniors, and I was just
Mhm,
this little itty bitty sophomore,
mhm.
and, they would take me to lunch, we'd always go to the mall
I
for lunch,
remember that.
and I would just get in the car with them, and they would drive, and, we would all go to the little mall food court and get
Yep.
lunch before the games and eat before the games, um, and so that was just so fun that, they did such a great job in involving me, and, like I said, I was in the background, behind the scenes, but, I felt like such an important part of the
Mhm.
team, and it
But
was so fulfilling.
that faithfulness, like, I remember your senior year, the award ceremony, I'm, like, sitting in the back, all these guys, the basketball players, of course, they're getting their awards, MVP, like, whatever the awards were, they were incredible, And then he starts talking about this kind of servant leader award. And I'm back there and I'm just listening, and he's sharing these characteristics of an individual of the team. And it turns out that it was you.
Yeah. Yeah, the Magus Award, and I was shocked. I was. Um, but it was, again, just such a moment where, like I said, I don't need the
I
recognition,
know.
but it did feel so good that I was like, that someone did see that, and it was just good. It was just nice seeing, like, my hard work
Yeah.
did go noticed, and so, um
Yeah, because it was 4 years. You did it all 4 years, all 4 years of football, all 4 years of
Yeah.
basketball,
Do
and
it.
yeah, you loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I look back at those moments, and I almost thought about doing it in college too, but it just ended up going a different route. God had a different plan for me, but it was just looking back at those days, they were just so much fun and just a great opportunity just to be a part of a team and get to do what I do best and find something that I was passionate about and I could serve others doing.
So being a Jesuit, and like you said, it was, definitely difficult. And, I remember I'm a person that collects friends. Like I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends. I'm always, so I would always be like, who'd you sit with at lunch? Like, who are you talking to? Are you okay? And you would just be like, I went into you would always go
To
and
the training room. So,
yeah.
yeah, the training room was open because normally a lot of times um, the head trainer or team trainer would get there a little early because there were some, like I said, it's a serious athletic program, and so they were getting
Yeah.
treatment and stuff
Sure.
like that before games or before practices for injuries, and so some of the football players would go and eat lunch in there, and so that's where I would go. And I just never found a seat at the table for me at lunch that a group I fit into, so I would go and sit in there. And there was a couple of them that was sitting there, and I built great relationships with them, but that's where I sit. I sit right there on the edge of one of the med tables and eat my lunch.
Right.
So
And I'm like looking back though, do you feel like, and I feel this way, like I feel like God protected you from even some of the conversations that were
yeah,
happening at
yeah.
those lunch tables. I remember one time you shared some conversations that were happening at lunch tables, like, oh my gosh,
It's
and so I always felt like, as much as I'm like, wait, but who'd you talk to? Who'd you sit with? Who, like all these mom things that I asked, will look back and I'm like, gosh, I feel like God protected you in all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
I definitely think so.
Mhm.
And, going to an all-boys school, the nice thing about it was there was no girl drama,
Yeah.
so I definitely was shielded from that as a whole.
Mhm.
But, I think that my heart was always just to build relationships with people that wanted to have a relationship, and so, I would seek people out, and, a lot of times those ended up being professors and
I know.
teachers, and, I made plenty of friends, and I had some great relationships with kids in my classes, but, it really was the teachers and stuff that I leaned on, to kinda have those deeper conversations with. I remember, like, I always had great relationships with my religion
You
teachers
did.
who
They loved you.
staunch Catholics,
Yes.
and, I grew, more in my faith in those 4 years than I ever thought I would've.
Mhm.
And just part of that being in a class where, um, you know, one, I didn't realize how much we agreed on things, so
Yeah.
being in a classroom where I got to learn about my faith and what I believed, and to even ask myself that question is like, "Okay, what do I believe and why?"
Mhm.
And going through a class where I was tested on that and asked those kind of questions and defended stuff. We took an apologetics class, which was by far, I think, one of the coolest classes I took, but I built such great relationships with those professors, and, I had so much respect for them, and I'd like to say that they had respect for me as well, and, I felt like they all honored me very well, and so it was just a great, incredible experience, as a whole, just to get to meet those people and connect with them, and learn so much about myself and my walk with Christ in the process as well.
Well, I remember, and this is like one of my favorite stories about you at Jesuit, because I may have been your freshman or sophomore year, but we were at an event. And of course, every event always has like a mass, like
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Like if it was anything, it always started with mass.
Mhm.
And of course, with mass comes communion.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting there in the gym, I remember, because they were redoing the
The chapel. They're
chapel.
building a new chapel.
So we were in the gym and it was, I don't even remember what event, but it was time for communion. And I just love the story. I've shared this story actually in ministry. And we were sitting, it's time for communion and someone's walking down and like, you're going to be the next row. And you lean over and you're like, Mom, when it's our turn, get up and go. Of course we can't take communion, but just cross your arms and get the blessing. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just sit still and I'm not going to do that. And there's not many times where you have been like, no, Mom, I need you to do this. And I just remember it being one of those moments when you're just like, no, Mom, I really want you to go up. Like, I need you to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I went up, I followed you up there, crossed my arms, got the blessing, came, sat down. Of course, we're in the middle of it, whatever. But I remember we're driving, we're getting back to the car. We sit in the car and I was like, why was it so important for you that we went up for the blessing? And you're like, Mom, it's a very holy and sacred moment. The least thing we could do is get up and go to the altar. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, again, you schooled me. So many times. And I just remember thinking like, wow, like it is a sacred moment. It is this holy moment. And the least thing we can do, is walk up to the front and honor that moment. Yeah. And those are all the things. Like I remember even freshman year when we had like freshman orientation, they said, like the president of the school was speaking and said, we're going to grow these boys into men. Yeah. And I remember getting so excited and then watching these next 4 years, literally watching you grow from a boy that was like 5'4", chubby into this like a man. Yeah. And like a man who was like so solid in his faith. Like I remember freshman year, you wanted to go to Europe. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And we got the money and you went to Europe and it was incredible. Like you came back different.
No, and because I got lucky. They let the group leaders kind of pick their groups. They don't really let them pick their groups, but the president of the school and the head priest, he got to pick his group. And he picked me to be in his group. And I remember
so kind.
just going through that with him. And one, he knew so many people. So we got to do so many kind of cool, unique things that not everyone got to do. That was really cool. And it was just like a great group of men. But just going through that with him, and I remember like sitting down in our last conversations of the trip, we kind of had a one-on-one moment with each of us. And, he just, he applauded me for my faith and was just like, you just have an incredible faith that you haven't, we don't always see. And that's not to the flaw or anything, but it was just such an honoring moment for a guy who has literally, talk about dying to oneself, has sacrificed everything, to serve God. To kind of say that to me, and he also was like, we hope to make you Catholic by the end of this, and he wasn't able to, but it was just, it meant a lot coming from him. And that whole trip of just, you really could, turn a nose away to maybe someone who doesn't believe exactly what you believe.
Oh my gosh.
To him to just have that honor and respect for me, I think really like what started, I just have such a high honor and respect for our Catholic brothers and sisters. I mean, some of their faiths are just so strong. And so it was just a really cool moment to be a part of that. And I grew so much in those moments.
And then the fruit of it all, like when you always talked about being like in the background, like, and but you were faithful. You're so faithful, like in or in as a, oh my gosh, a manager, sports manager. Like you were so faithful. You're so faithful to your teachers. I remember going and sitting in like parent teacher conferences and they would just be like, oh my gosh, your son, your biology teacher, your freshman year, she was incredible.
She was awesome.
And you just everything. And you're so faithful. You're so faithful to the people. Even the next year, you went on another trip to Europe. Remember? And you told Father Hermes like, oh, I don't know, like it's kind of expensive. And we went.
He's like, we'll cover half of it.
Yeah.
He's like,
and
we'll
he's like, we'll cover half of it. I want you on this trip.
Yeah.
Like, what an honor.
Yeah.
Like, what a blessing. And that whole trip was about honoring moms and,
Mhm.
and you learned so much on that trip. I think you came back that so different. You had your 15th birthday when you were on that trip. I mean,
Yeah.
you sacrificed a lot
I did.
to go on these things.
It was pretty cool though. I don't know about sacrificing that much. I was in the south of France for my my birthday. It was pretty cool.
True.
But yeah, and like, just the moments of just talking about sacrifice, and even some of the moments where we shared when we were in Rome and doing the Scala Sancta, walking up the steps that
Yeah.
Jesus walked up to
Mhm.
Pontius Pilate, and like that moment, like we were literally on our knees.
Yep.
We'd walk them up on our knees.
Mhm.
We'd pray every single time you went up. We went to mass every day. And it was such a moment where it was 2 weeks where I just got to just spend so much time with the Lord.
Mhm.
And it was just such cool experiences. And I learned so much about myself and my own faith, and got to see a lot of cool places while I was at. But just so grateful for the opportunity, and that I went to a school that was truly just so intentional with each and one of their students.
Mhm. And you talk about last week when we talked about like mentors that poured into you, like
Yeah.
even Father Hermes was one of those people.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
that poured into you
Mhm.
and like grew you and who you are today. And all of those things, you were so faithful that senior year, I get this email
Yeah.
and all it said is, "Hey, your student is getting an award."
Yeah. We were invited to this award ceremony
Yeah,
at
it was
the
this
end.
really nice at the brand new chapel. All these people show up. I'm so excited. You're getting an award. I'm like, what award? Like what do you possibly think? And Carmen was, I don't know if it was horseback riding. She had something that day, but Mary Grace came with us. And remember it was like this.
No, it was just us two. Mary Grace is not there.
Oh, she wasn't there. It was just
It
us
was just
two.
us two. See, this is why I gotta be on the podcast. They never get the stories quite right. It was just us two. I do remember.
Because I didn't think it was that. I was like, oh, you're getting a math award,
Yeah,
or
I didn't
like,
know.
right? That's right.
I didn't
It
even
was
know what award I was
just
getting.
us two.
Yeah.
You're right. And so, and we're sitting on the very back,
Yeah.
and we're looking at the program, and I'm like,
I'm looking at the program like, what did I win? I'm like looking, and so we're going through it, and they're announcing the awards. It's like National Merit Scholar, which I wasn't that smart.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of smart kids, and
Yeah,
I
there's
wasn't
a lot
smart
of
as
smart
36
kids
or
there.
ACT or anything like that.
Mhm.
And we're going through, and I'm like, oh, maybe it was this one. No, didn't win
No,
that one.
yep.
No, this isn't. And they got down to the second to the last award. It was the Faculty Memorial Growth Award, which was the last award of the night that was given to a senior.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at Mom, like, I think this was a mistake, because
Yeah.
there's no way this is not my award.
He kept going, Mom, are you sure you read the email right? I'm like, I did. Like, I mean, and believe me, like, that's a fair question. That is a fair question.
It is.
I'm like, no, I read the email. It said to be here at this time. And like, the guys that got that award were, like, obviously people like,
They were really smart kids that were in the
smart
class. There's
kids,
a kid that
Catholic
skipped
kids, like a top, like parents donate,
I was like, I got A's in my religions course, but like, are they gonna get their religion course thing
Yeah,
here?
I know. So
So
we're not
like, I have
Catholic. We were laughing. And then I said, we scooted all the way to the end of the bench because I'm like, the minute they call this, whoever won this award, like, we're out. Like, let's just because they're going to be like, what award did you get?
Yeah.
And
no.
we didn't get one. And you're like, Mom, like, did you? I'm like, I promise you, I think I read this right. But now I'm second guessing everything. And they start talking about the person that won this award. And they don't say their name right away, but they start talking about the characteristics of this person. And I look over, I'm like, I think they're talking about you.
Yeah. I don't know if I was in belief. I was still in disbelief. I was like, there's no way I won this award. But they called my name, and I was in utter shock. But I think what was the most, it was most like, I think important, a part of that award was that it was nominated by faculty.
Yeah.
And I was just like, again, just kind of, you think you're kind of going unnoticed sometimes,
Yeah.
but the relationships that I built with my professors obviously did not. And that, we talked about, you talk about in your very first podcast about the mission statement of leaving people better than I found them. And, that was a moment that I felt like, gosh, I did do that. I did live out my mission, and our family mission. And so that was a really kind of a cool, accumulation to my senior year, is like always kind of being the kid that was in the background. And then just being honored with one of the highest awards was just, it was a really really cool moment.
But I think this is, like, such a great picture, like, because the world tells you, you have to be loud, you have to do this, you have to be in the front, you have to fight for your position, and God's like, "No,
No.
like, you don't. I will elevate you, I will promote you, I will do those things."
Right.
And I felt like your whole life, I feel like, has been that way. Um, but we sat there, I mean, he got up to receive this award. I'm sitting in the back, of this beautiful chapel,
Mhm.
of this beautiful school that I don't even know how in the world did we even get here?
Right.
Like, how did we afford this? How did we do this? Like, God has been so good. And then your final weeks of a high school student, it was like, hey, this is your award.
Yeah.
Like, this is who you are. Like, it was so
Mhm.
beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, and in that year too, I got to speak at the gala, which
Yep.
was, raises money for scholarships, for students that were just like me, and I got to share my story and the impact that Jesuit had made on me in my 4 years, and, that was just such an incredible experience
Mhm.
to be there and meet so many amazing people, and get to, again, leave that impact and, get to share with them, my testimony and what they've done for me. And, a lot of them have been donating for years, and so, they made it possible for me to get to experience those things and grow in that way. And so it was such a cool moment to kind of get to share that with them, and be able just to thank them for their generosity, for making it possible. Because, like you said, like I sometimes don't understand how you did it, but I mean, it was just the generosity of so many of the people who were faithful with their funds and their financials to give to a school that, left an impact on so many students.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, it was a great experience, but like I said, it didn't come without its trials, and
Mhm.
you just had to put my head down and do what I could do, and let
But
fruit come from that.
right. But one of the things, and as we wrap up, one of the things I really admire is that you were unshakable.
Yeah.
Like, you really were. Like, I can't even imagine being in high school, in this day and age, and you were who you were.
Yeah.
Like, every single day you walked on that campus, you were Thomas Davis.
Yeah.
You did not try to pretend, just like you said at the beginning.
Right.
I'm not gonna act like a fool and try to pretend I'm someone that I'm not, 'cause
Right.
I'm not that person. You weren't a jock. You weren't any of those things
I was driving a Hyundai Elantra Touring, like, 2008, 2009.
that someone gifted
Yeah,
us.
someone gifted us that had 3,000 mi almost 300,000 miles on it. Like, there was no way. I had the new Ford Raptor parking next to me, crashing into the side of my car. So, there was no way I was gonna fake anyone out on that one.
But you were but, like, I feel like at the end of your high school career, people really respected you.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like, "This is a kid that, like, was unshakable." Like, your faith was unshakable, your like, who you were so confident in who you were. I think I look back at your high school, I'm like, "Dang, like, that was incredible." That was incredible, and, like, I'm just as a mom, I'm really proud of you, but, like, as we wrap up, what's one thing that you would wanna say to a high school kid right now in high school?
I mean, it's definitely easier said than done, but
Yeah.
just be who you are. But more importantly, be who you are in Christ. Like, focus on that. Focus on what Christ is calling you to do, and find that niche thing. Find those clubs and organizations in college too, but especially in high school. Find those things that you're going to be a part of, involved in, that you can, live out what God's called you to do. And if you're too busy trying to catch up with being the cool person or whatever,
Yeah.
let me tell you, looking back on it, I look at high schoolers now, they're all awkward, they're all weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how cool you think you are in high school, you're not. You're better off putting your efforts into something that is going to produce good fruit.
Yeah.
And so that's where your focus needs to be on, is strengthening your relationship with Christ, and finding what in your high school is going to be your calling and what God's called you to do.
I love that. All right. Guys, what a great episode.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It
So
ran a little
rich.
long. I told him it was gonna be me that ran it long. So
It was worth it. So, guys, thanks for listening and go leave people better than you found them.
peace.